And welcome back to Who Would Win. Today is the Saturday's official Who Would Win. This one comes to us from, is that just the name of the person? Well, I'm sure I got the person's name right. Hold on. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at a different... No, yeah, I'm looking at the right one. Goku 5. I don't think that's the right name. That's not the right name. Why did I write Goku 5? Young Savage. Yeah, Young Savage is the one who gave me this fight. This fight. And to be fair, I don't recall anyone else giving me the suggestion of this fight because I looked through my suggestions and I don't think anyone did. If someone did, I'll put your name in the comments or the summary of the video. Sorry, but I tried looking and I couldn't find anyone else suggesting this one. But it's Meliodas, and I think I'm getting the right name right. Meliodas. Sorry, it's Meliodas. I might be getting that name wrong. From Seven Deadly Sins. First Seven Deadly Sin character I've ever done, but I have a lot of suggestions for them. So, yeah. Versus Ainz. And I'm going to go with Ainz. I'm going to go with Ainz. Ainz Ulagron from Overlord. Now, these are both some pretty hacks characters, particularly Ainz from his own series. He's considered pretty much the strongest character in the series and the protagonist. However, okay, so let's break this down. In Overlord, the whole world's actually a video game. It's an RPG of some kind. And Ainz is basically our main character, / technically he's a villain too. He's a Elder Lich skeletal mage and a sorcerer supreme, essentially. He knows around 718 spells. Can use other people's spells against them. Other players, he's great he's pretty solid in player versus player, but he can lose, at least initially. In the new world, because Ainz doesn't underestimate his opponents and is cautious, tends to plan out his fights before engaging them in combat. Ainz would make steady preparations and first lead takes. This was shown when he defeated Shatir, who happened to be a hard counter to his necromancy and summoning skills. If Ainz was placed in a situation where he had prepared with his equipment for battle, after considering his opponent's abilities and skills and planning tactics, he would be quite confident in his ability to select appropriate set of gear. For a pure arcane magic caster such as him, his selection of weapons is very limited, but he can bypass these with weapons that aren't class restrictive. He has a mental bond with summoning monsters to command them under him. He states that he has an anti-scrying offensive barrier activated against divine magic, preventing enemies from the sunlight scripture from being observed under their higher ups, whatever that means. With the barrier in use, he could as well link other high tier attack spells of his own kind, like a widened explosion, back to the users of divine magic. In direct close physical combat, his strength stems from his prior knowledge and battle experience during his time in Yggdrasil, using it to fend off New World natives and their martial arts skills. Yet at the same time, cultivating and gaining new knowledge plus experience based on his encounter with a character. Such efforts were shown during his battle. Anyway, his skills include, but are not limited to, ability damage 4, acid immunity, arcane vision, and see invisibility, see-through. Essentially, he can see through things. Black Halo, whatever that is. Create high-tier undead, including a eyeball corpse or pale rider. Create mid-tier undead, 12 days. Basically, I think this is how long they can last for. How long they can last for. Create lowly tier dead for 20 days. Dark Soul, his dark wisdom allows him to learn spells by making them sacrifice. He has spare ores that go up to level 5. He has a chance of not resisting... He has a chance, if not resisted by abilities, equipment, or level differences, of causing fear. In the game, it refers to abnormal status of being afraid, which inflicts a penalty upon all actions. Now, it should stop right there and saying how this fight's going to break down, because there's no way of knowing how Meliodas would function in a game setting world like Overlord. So we're going to have to take Ainz and put him into the world that Meliodas exists in, his real world. So a real world scenario, or a Yeah, a real living world scenario, if you will. In that sense, I guess is the best term to use. But his despair aura would cause fear. His despair aura level 2 would cause panic. His despair aura level 3 would cause confusion. His despair aura level 4 can cause insanity. And then his despair aura level 5 can cause instant death. He's immune to electricity. High tier magic level immunity level 3 nullifies lower tier spells. His level 2 nullifies high tier physical immunity. Low level attacks below level 60, but again, wouldn't matter here. Anyway, I can say this Meliodas is above low level. He would be above this tier. Ice immunity, though, negative energy, touch of undeath, deals negative type damage to objects being touched, attacked, or skilled attacked by Ainz. Before the target is inflicted by negative type damage, it can be fully recovered by avoiding direct physical contact with the character. Negative protection speaks evil tongues, status damage, splashing damage resistance, piercing damage resistance, turn resistance 3. It protects Aizen against undead communicate. Well, that wouldn't really matter. Basic undead race traits, biological penalties resistance, critical hit immunity, dark vision, bludgeoning vulnerability 5, death immunity, disease immunity, double damage fire, eating, drinking, and breathing are unnecessary, energy drain immunity, good light, and holy vulnerability level 4, mind affecting immunity, necromancer resistance, paralysis immunity, physical penalty resistance, poisoning immunity, recovering class abilities. Jesus, he's got a lot of abilities. Instant death enhancement. Rites of Darkness states that he can enhance his death creation skill through the use of dark ritual, undead aura, undead creation, undead control, and undead domination. That's pretty much as it sounds. Undead ruler. Web novel only, apparently. Undead strengthening. It can strengthen the undead. Super tier magic. Book of Revelation Malevolence. Creation is a super tier spell that can create the terrain itself. So basically, he can alter the terrain. Disaster of Abandoned Locust. And that's in the web novel. It doesn't give any information on that, unfortunately. Fallen Down. Upon casting the super tier spell, he calls upon a huge pillar of blue light from the sky that can burn so bright and hot that it will appear like the whole world has turned white. After a few seconds, it will leave behind an area burned to cinders, devoid of life. Essentially, he's going to incinerate you. It deals massive damage, especially upon undead-type enemies. Oh god, what the hell? La Shub Nigarath. Using this super tier spell, he can summon Black Cyclone, which instantly kills everything in the field of range. Spells include instant death effect. It's practically useless against the undead and golems and other beings that have no life. Unfortunately, Meliodas doesn't qualify, so we'll get to him in a little bit. While it is effective against living players and enemies, it is hard to imagine any level 100 player not having immunity to instant death. Additionally, the fallen victim caught in the cyclone are also sacrificed to summon monsters at level 90 known as Dark Young. Jeez. Wish Upon a Star, super tier spell which consumes the user's experience points to grant a wish or more. Aizen is able to gain access to it using a spell item, but is said to have learned it too. In the New World, when casting the super tier spell, it felt as though new information is being entered into his mind, and that is okay. Although it still expand experience points, Pantheon. Upon casting, this user's tier spell allows Ainz to summon 6 level 80 cherubim gatekeepers with a holy type item. He also has, with this, okay, this is going to take forever to get through. The level of spell, the goat of all life is death, special skill. Okay, I'm going to just say that he waves lots of energy-based attacks. He can manipulate time, chaos. He can pretty much do nearly anything you can think of. Because here's the thing. He has 3 first tiers, 1 second tier, so that's not bad. 6 third tiers, a 5th tier attack, Dragon Lightning, Jesus, 7th tier attack, 8th attack, Jesus. I can't go over everything because we just don't have the time of day, and I'm already at 10 minutes and I haven't even gotten to the other guy. Point being, he's got God knows how many summons. Main equipment, does he have any legit Dark Warrior equipment which changes his class? Does he honestly have any real weaknesses? Besides, if you type disadvantages, dominability, jeez. Point being, this guy's pretty damn hacks. So Meliodas is It was the captain of the seven deadly sins, the dragon sins, if you will. His sin is wrath. Let's see here right now. Yeah, he is the dragon sin of wrath, captain of the seven deadly sins, and the main protagonist of the seven deadly sins series. He is pretty much fearless, frank, pretty much a pervert too. Loves frequently telling jokes. Despite this, he remains calm in the face of danger. Despite he's had a much darker personality at one point in time in his history. Now he has gotten rid of this. He had a curse at one point which prevented him from ultimately dying for good. He would always resurrect, but he would lose his memory a little bit. His skills in battle, he's a fierce he's a fierce hand-to-hand fighter. Has like most of the sins of the demon clan, he is capable of manifesting mysterious darkness which can morph into various shapes, various purposes, including forming wings for flight, retaching limbs, and enhancing physical capabilities. He has knowledge in demonic enchantments. And now, one thing here that's really interesting is that he's well known for his skill with the sword and pure physicality, but he also has an incredible magical ability, known for his virtual immunity to magic attacks through his ability Full Counter. For example, his immense combat skills. An example of immense combat skills is when he overwhelmed both the ancient fairy and giant kings simultaneously. Now, that being said, after unleashing his full demonic power in a desperate attempt to break free of something, he regained his full power and entering assault mode, massively increasing his physical capabilities and power. He easily outmatched Escanor in a fight, despite his power increasing every second, to the point that Diane noted he was toying with the sin of pride, remaining almost completely unharmed by his attacks, being defeated only when Escar reached his peak of the powers as the One. It was due to Meliodas underestimating him. Even after being badly injured and almost sliced in half by him, moments later he was able to quickly recover, only being stopped by Merlin's timely interference. So, he goes, like, just whole on ham. Like, physically speaking, I could say this guy's probably stronger than Ainz. He absolutely survived unscathed. He's extremely durable, absorbing commandments and producing an almost impenetrable field of darkness surrounding him, which Merlin states he could do nothing but to destroy. So, like, in terms of like abilities, Full Counter, this ability allows him to reflect magic attacks aimed at him back at the enemy with much greater power. Therefore, the stronger the opponent's powers are, the stronger the rebound becomes. A primary drawback is that he cannot initiate attacks himself. He is incapable of redirecting an attack if the opponent does not allow him to read the timing and nature of it. Physical and indirect and continuous attacks can also not be reflected. Demon King stated that the technique is merely an imitation of Chandler's technique, and that his original power magic is something different. He also has Hellblaze ability. Hellblaze, a mysterious ability displayed by Meliodas to allow him to generate black flames. The technique, in addition, nullifies an immortal's regeneration. Assault mode. This state basically unleashes his demon powers to the fullest, achieving immense powers. The form allows him to have access to his full power. Okay, according to some character, back in the days when Meliodas was in command of the Ten Commandments, even they feared him in this mode. The drawback is that it temporarily robs him of all his feelings and emotion, causing him to revert to how he was before the betrayal of the Demon Clan. Kamchigiri basically Meliodas cuts his opponent with his sword a total of 1,000 times instantaneously. Trillion Dark launches a barrage of small spheres at high concentration of darkness. Commandment. As the former leader of Ten Commandments, was the original wielder of the commandment of love, which was bestowed upon the Demon King. Those who stand before him with hatred in their hearts will be rendered powerless to harm him or inflict damage on him. Let's see here. In terms of weapons, he has a giant broadsword, dragon handle, which used this broken sword in conjunction with Full Counter. Okay. Lids' sword. Most of these wouldn't really have power level. His power level increases in stages in the progression of the story. So, yeah, Meliodas is an extremely powerful individual, no doubt about it. But can he beat Ainz? Because I couldn't even go over every single spell that Ainz has. Right? I'll go over a couple more just to give you an idea of how much this guy has. We already went over everything I just went over. Let's go over a couple of tier spells real quick. He has Magic Arrow. That's a basic technique in any D&D campaign. Rabbit Ear. It's a spell that enhances his hearing. Summoning Undead. Basically just summoning Undead. Acid Arrow, an acidic arrow he fires. Fireball, flying, which allows him to fly. Ice Ball, lightning. Lopsided Duel, a third-tier spell that bounds the caster to a target such that whenever the target tried to flee to teleportation, both caster and the target would appear in the same spot. Oh, that's interesting. Summoning on Summoning Undead, level 3. A fifth-tier spell, Dragon Lightning. Lightning in the shape of a dragon seeks out the target. Chain Dragon Lightning, a spell that shoots Dragon Lightning forward, let alone intent. It can also strike another enemy. Create Greater Item, Focus Magic, which a less 7th-tier spell that can be used on an ally. Greater Teleportation, Hell Flame, which we all know what Hell Flames can kind of do. Raging Inferno, Napalm, Undeath Army, Astral Smite, Death. Can use on a single target each time it can use with silent magic. Okay, I'm guessing just kill someone. Dimensional Look. Teleport and transfer mental magic as usable. Energy Drain. 8th-tier spell with Necromancy. Explosion. Kind of self-explanatory. Blast of Titania. God. Nuclear Blast. Okay, perfect. Unknowledgeable. User makes the invisible to the naked eye. Can you erase one's trace? Okay. Vermilion Nova, to 10th level spells. Armageddon Evil, a 10th tier spell that summons an army of demons. Body Euphilage, Berlin, spell that reduces the effectiveness of bludgeoning attacks. Control Amnesia, grants the user some level of control over target's memories. Create Fortress, summon a large mighty fortress. Meteor Fall, that's pretty self-explanatory. Reality Slash. Top class damage dealing spell, but it consumes a lot of mana. The spell is considered to be a lesser version of the World Break. Does he have that as well? By using this, he creates 3 attacks that slash space itself, cutting through with a very fabric space and hit the powerful get. Summoning the Undeath, Time Stop. I do remember that one. Ultimate Disturb. Jeez. And Uriel, a 10th tier spell that deals fire damage. It's kind of spell that could be learned by a magic caster of any type as long as the requirements are learned. However, the spell only did its listed damage when cast by a magic caster with maxed out positive karma. Okay, fine. And then he also has we don't know the tier of these absorptions. Tier of these spells. Absorption, all appraisal magic item. Breath Ward, Blessed Caster, Burst, Charm Person, Complete Invisibility, Complete Vision, Cure Poison, Delay Teleportation, Explosive Landmine. Oh, man. So, okay. These two met in combat. Who would win? Well, again, this isn't one of these things where let's put Meliodas in the game that Overlord exists in, that Ainz exists in. No, it's we have to take him and put him in Seven Deadly Sins universe. So he would be a big threat in that universe, no doubt. And then, Meliodas being the captain of the Seven Deadly Sins tries kick his ass. And, he'd probably be the more aggressor of the two. It's like, oh, I'm not looking for any trouble. I said, I'm not, I'm not looking for any trouble. Because in the English dub, it's actually, I believe, the guy who does the voice of Beerus who does them. So I'm trying, Ainz's voice. So I'm trying to get that, but I'm not looking for any trouble. So why don't you just go away, little boy? It's like, oh, little boy, huh? Well, sorry, I can't do that. Because you're basically a demonic lich lord, and I have to bring you down. Just the way it works. Sorry, buddy. So, he comes in and thinking, no, he's about like just going to cut you a couple times, and it's all going to work out great. He will try to cut in, but obviously Ainz would have, weaponry available on call and spells available on call to avoid such things. Like, I warned you. Now, Ainz probably wouldn't try to kill him right off the bat. He'd try to just keep him at bay. And because of the full counter, Meliodas would be able to reflect it back. Unfortunately, Ainz is very much a strategist. He's been playing this game for a long time, so he would know how to counter, deal with such attacks like that. He can't just go in and counter. Now, he would quickly realize that he can just try to overwhelm him, and if he realizes that works, that he can't just use the spam attack, that the spamming attacks certainly is effective against him. And I'm not saying what attacks because there's so many. After a while, it gets to the point that Meliodas would have to go pretty much all out, or start to really, or at least start to really take it more seriously. Using his darkness, maybe even go into assault mode. But the problem is that being a lich means he can't really die, and even if he can, the problem with this is he can just make summons that get in the way, and he has more than enough instant death type attacks that he probably would just kill him with an instant death attack after a while. Now, granted, in terms of trying to compare Meliodas to like a level in a game, he probably is a much higher level than most of the individuals that Ainz would go up against. But he's still probably not the highest tier he's ever gone up against, because his abilities are pretty straightforward when you break it down. Maybe not straightforward, but pretty. He doesn't have a huge variety of abilities, and his commandment, frankly, wouldn't do anything because he doesn't have. He doesn't really have. Ainz doesn't have hatred in his heart. He's just a guy playing a game. So, ultimately, it would probably come down to... now, I do think Meliodas would get a lot of good hits in, but Ainz definitely, has the physicality, being an undead individual, to stave off the impending defeat. And, again, a lot of different types of instant death, aura abilities, time freezing abilities. Ultimately, I actually have to go with Ainz. Now, see, this is interesting because I actually was leaning more to Meliodas before I really looked into these guys more. Because I'm like, all right, but Meliodas, he's beaten guys far stronger than Ainz ultimately, right? And it's like, no, actually, when you really compare how much Ainz is capable of, and Meliodas is completely capable of dying, let's be clear. He will, because of that curse he had for a long time, he would reincarnate, but he doesn't have that curse anymore. So he's completely capable of death and dying. So ultimately, I have to go with, I got to go actually with Ainz on this. Now, is there a way Meliodas could win? Probably. It's not impossible, but he'd be fighting on the loot. He'd really be struggling because the problem is that his full counter would only work initially in the fight because Ainz is a very strategic individual. He would know how to overpower someone or how to handle someone who's got counter abilities. He just has his own counter abilities. So ultimately, and he can just affect his memories, go into his head, all that stuff. Like fear inducement probably wouldn't be a big issue, but confusion inducement, something like that, insanity inducement, that might be a bit more of a problem. But the fear inducement, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Wouldn't worry much about that on Meliodas' side simply because it's the nature of his character. He's not afraid. Unfortunately, again, I gotta go Ainz. But look, I'm not going to argue too strongly in favor if someone can bring up a legitimate reason that Meliodas wins or can win the majority. I think it's very possible Meliodas could win. I mean, he could, again, like I say, I think he's the physically tougher of the two, so he could easily just overwhelm him with pure brutality and force. But there's a lot of spells that Ainz has that could easily counter that. So I'd like to know what you think. Do you think it is Ainz or do you think it's Meliodas? I'm going Ainz, the majority. I'm not going to really give a number on that. I just think it's the majority. Until then, though, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Superman, Magic, what if, anything to do with the channel. Put that in the comments below as well. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.